She never imagined her journey west would end in a marriage of survival and a bond that would change everything she thought she knew about love, courage, and belonging. But what happened next? Nobody could have predicted it. Sarah Callaway stood at the edge of Fort Benton, watching the endless Montana sky stretch before her. At 22, with auburn hair catching fire in the sunset, she'd left Boston after her father's death, seeking a new beginning with her uncle. She had no idea she was about to make a choice that would transform her life forever. "Miss Callaway, I must warn you," Lieutenant Davis called out, riding closer. "Blackfeet scouts have been spotted. These aren't Boston streets. The territories are unforgiving." Sarah turned back toward the fort, her heart heavy. That's when she saw 3 riders on the horizon. One was her uncle, Dr. Edward Palmer. He dismounted and embraced her, but something in his eyes made her stomach drop. What he told her that evening would change everything. "The Blackfeet are dying, Sarah," her uncle explained over dinner, his voice shaking. "Smallpox has returned. They're suspicious of white medicine, and I've been trying to help them for months." He paused, unable to meet her eyes. "Chief Gray Wolf has finally agreed to let me treat his people, but only under one condition." Sarah felt the room spinning. What condition? Their custom requires cementing alliances through marriage. Edward reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Gray Wolf has a son, Black Thunder. He's lost 2 wives to disease. Sarah, they'll only accept my medicine if there's a family bond." "You're asking me to marry a savage?" Sarah's voice cracked with disbelief. "I'm asking you to save dozens of children who will die without proper treatment," Edward said firmly. "Give me 3 days. Let me show you the suffering before you decide." Sarah lay awake that night, contemplating escape. But where would she go? Her funds were gone. Winter was coming. She was trapped. The next morning changed her perspective forever. Edward took her to a small Blackfeet encampment, where sick children lay dying. Their bodies were covered in pustules, their mothers' eyes hollow with grief. Sarah had never seen such suffering. As she helped her uncle apply compresses and administer medicine, something inside her shifted. "There are hundreds more like them," Edward whispered. "Without treatment, half the tribe could perish by spring." On the 3rd day, everything changed again. Sarah was bandaging a young boy's arm when a shadow fell across the entrance. The women inside grew suddenly still, their eyes downcast. She looked up to see the most imposing man she'd ever encountered. Black Thunder stood over 6 feet tall, his broad shoulders draped in a buffalo robe, his long black hair adorned with a single eagle feather. His face was stern with high cheekbones and piercing dark eyes that assessed her coldly. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. But what happened next shocked her completely. Black Thunder knelt beside the sick child with surprising gentleness, speaking soft words in his native tongue. The boy's face brightened. Then Black Thunder rose and addressed Sarah in perfect English. "You are the healer's daughter." "His niece," Sarah corrected, finding her voice. "You have gentle hands," he observed. Then he turned to leave. At the entrance, he paused. "Your uncle says you will decide today. Know this, I do not seek a wife, but my people need medicine. If you refuse, I will understand." He was gone, leaving Sarah more confused than ever. That evening, under the weight of countless suffering eyes, Sarah made a decision that would alter the course of her entire life. "I'll do it," she told Edward, "but I have conditions of my own." The wedding ceremony took place 3 days later at dawn. Sarah stood trembling in a deerskin dress adorned with intricate beadwork, her hair braided with shells and feathers, her face painted with symbols she didn't understand. Chief Gray Wolf presided over the ceremony as Black Thunder stood opposite her, his expression unreadable. They exchanged tokens, Sarah offering a silver locket containing her mother's portrait, Black Thunder presenting an intricately carved bone pendant. "This belonged to my grandmother," he said quietly, his only words during the entire ceremony. As they completed the rituals, Sarah realized she was now caught between 2 worlds, belonging fully to neither. But the real shock was still to come. The Blackfeet camp sprawled across a sheltered valley with dozens of teepees arranged in a crescent. Curious eyes followed Sarah everywhere. Children darted forward to touch her hair before being scolded. Black Thunder led her to a large teepee at the camp's center. "This is your home now," he said, holding the entrance flap open. Inside, the dwelling was surprisingly spacious. Buffalo robes covered the ground, painted designs adorned the walls. Before Sarah could respond, Black Thunder was already speaking again. "I have hunting to do. My sister Morning Star will help you." Then he was gone, leaving her alone in this strange new world. A young woman entered shortly after. Morning Star, Black Thunder's sister. Unlike her brother's stern demeanor, her eyes held warmth. "You are brave to come here," she said carefully. "Many women talk of you. Some say you are a spirit woman with healing powers. Others say my brother took you by force." She sat down opposite Sarah. "I want to know the truth." Over the next hours, Sarah found herself drawn to Morning Star's forthright nature. She explained everything: her uncle's work, her decision to marry Black Thunder. "My brother is a good man," Morning Star said, "but war and sickness have made him hard, like stone on the outside." That evening, when Black Thunder returned with 2 deer slung over his horse, Sarah was sitting outside the teepee writing in her journal. He acknowledged her with a nod, then sat across the fire from her. "Your people have many questions about me," Sarah ventured. "They are curious. Few have seen white women who were not captives or missionaries." "And what am I?" she asked boldly. His eyes met hers. "You are Black Thunder's wife. That is all they need to know." "And what does that mean? What am I expected to do?" He considered her question. "Women prepare food, make clothing, gather wood. But you are here to help with medicine. That will be your work." "And us?" The question she'd been dreading. What of husband and wife? Black Thunder's expression didn't change. "I promised your uncle I would respect your ways. You will have your own sleeping place. No man will harm you while you are under my protection." Relief flooded through her, but also confusion. Was she disappointed? Days passed into a strange routine. Sarah spent mornings with her uncle learning about medicinal plants, afternoons treating the sick, and evenings with Morning Star learning the Blackfeet language and customs. Black Thunder remained distant, often leaving before dawn and returning after sunset. When present, he watched Sarah with an intensity that made her uncomfortable, yet he never approached her sleeping area. Then, one evening, everything changed. Sarah returned exhausted from treating 3 severely ill children to find the teepee empty. Relieved to have a moment alone, she removed her outer garments and washed with water from a basin. "You work too hard," a deep voice said behind her. Sarah gasped, clutching her damp cloth. "I didn't hear you come in." "The children you helped today. Their fever has broken," Black Thunder said, setting down his bow. "Their grandmother says your medicine is strong. It's not my medicine. It's science. Knowledge." Black Thunder moved to the fire, adding wood carefully. "Knowledge is power. My people had knowledge of these lands, of survival. Your people have different knowledge. Yet we can share it," Sarah said, settling opposite him, more comfortable now. "That's why I'm here." For the first time, something softened in his expression. "Yes, that is why you are here." But that night brought something neither of them expected. A commotion outside woke Sarah from sleep. Black Thunder was already gone. She wrapped herself in a blanket and went outside to find torches illuminating a group of riders entering the camp. At their center was a wounded warrior, blood soaking his side. "Soldiers!" Morning Star appeared beside her, voice tight with anger. "They attacked our hunters near the creek." Black Thunder emerged from the crowd, his face a mask of controlled fury. When he noticed Sarah watching, he strode toward her. "Your people's soldiers shot without warning," he said, voice low and dangerous. "2 men dead, 3 wounded." "Let me help," Sarah offered, but he blocked her path. "These men will not accept your medicine. They believe white hands bring death." "That's ridiculous. I can help stop the bleeding at least." Black Thunder studied her for a long moment. "Come then. But if they refuse, You must honor their choice. Throughout the night, Sarah worked alongside the tribe's medicine woman. One warrior refused her touch, but the others, seeing her dedication, reluctantly accepted her aid. As dawn broke, Sarah stumbled exhausted back to the teepee, where Black Thunder was waiting with news that would change everything again. The youngest warrior will die without better medicine, he said. Your uncle must come. The fort is 3 hours' ride, Sarah replied, already gathering supplies. We need to go now. We? Black Thunder raised an eyebrow. I'm coming with you. The boy needs constant care until we reach my uncle. Something in her determination reached him, and he nodded once. Be ready to ride in 10 minutes. The journey to Fort Benton was tense and silent. Black Thunder led on his powerful stallion, while Sarah followed on a gentle mare, constantly glancing back at the wounded warrior secured to a travois. The young man's breathing had grown shallow, his skin burning with fever. Twice they stopped to change blood-soaked bandages. Each time, Black Thunder stood guard, eyes scanning the horizon. When Sarah struggled to lift the warrior's head to give him water, Black Thunder silently knelt beside her, supporting the young man with surprising gentleness. His name is Running Fox, Black Thunder said unexpectedly. He is my cousin's son, 16 summers. Sarah glanced at the boy's young face. What happened with the soldiers? Black Thunder's jaw tightened. Our hunters were tracking elk on our traditional grounds. The blue coats claimed they crossed some invisible line. They fired warning shots. Running Fox's horse was startled. When he fell, they thought he was attacking. They rode in silence before he added, Your uncle is a good man. Not all white men are the same. I know this. But many see only our skin, not our hearts. Many of my people would say the same about yours, Sarah replied softly. His dark eyes met hers. Then perhaps we understand each other better than we thought. What happened at Fort Benton would test that understanding to its limits. When they reached the fort, Sarah was shocked by the stares and whispers. Women pulled children aside. Men reached instinctively for weapons. Black Thunder rode proudly, seemingly oblivious to the hostility, but Sarah noticed how his hand never strayed far from his knife. Dr. Palmer hurried from his clinic, immediately directing the wounded warrior inside. As Sarah dismounted, Lieutenant Davis approached, hand resting on his pistol. Miss Callaway, he said, deliberately ignoring Black Thunder. Are you well? Has he mistreated you? I'm perfectly fine, Lieutenant, Sarah replied coldly. And he has a name. This is my husband, Black Thunder. We've brought an injured boy who needs immediate care. The lieutenant's face registered shock. Your husband? So the rumors are true. You actually went through with this arrangement. Black Thunder dismounted, standing protectively near Sarah. My wife helps our people heal. We need supplies. The tension between the two men was palpable. Sarah placed a hand on Black Thunder's arm, feeling the muscles tense beneath her touch. Lieutenant, please inform the commander we're here on a medical emergency, not to cause trouble. Inside the clinic, Dr. Palmer worked to remove the bullet from Running Fox's shoulder. Sarah assisted, grateful for her medical training. Black Thunder observed from the corner, his face impassive even as the boy cried out in pain. The bullet missed the major vessels, Edward explained. With proper care, he should recover. But the night would bring revelations neither Sarah nor Black Thunder anticipated. Later, as Running Fox slept under the influence of laudanum, Sarah and Black Thunder stepped outside. The fort had grown quiet, though soldiers still watched from a distance. Your uncle says we must stay until morning, Black Thunder said. The boy cannot travel yet. We can use my old room. I'll ask for extra blankets. I will sleep outside with the horses, he replied firmly. That's ridiculous. It's too cold, and the soldiers are already suspicious. Please, the room is large enough. After a moment's hesitation, he agreed. That night, in the small room where Sarah had once contemplated escape, they created an awkward arrangement of blankets. Black Thunder insisted on sleeping near the door to protect her. Sarah lay awake, listening to his steady breathing. Thank you, she said softly, for bringing Running Fox here, for trusting my uncle. After a long silence, his deep voice came through the darkness. When I was a boy, I also was shot by soldiers. Sarah turned toward his voice. What happened? I was 10. My father and I were hunting. The bullet shattered my leg bone. A white doctor at the mission saved it, though many said it should be cut off. He paused. I can still run and ride as well as any warrior, but I know what good medicine can do. Is that why you agreed to the marriage? Sarah asked. Grey Wolf decided, but I did not oppose him. Our children are dying. Pride helps no one. The next morning brought a crisis that would test everything they'd built. Running Fox was conscious but weak. Edward insisted he stay another day, giving Sarah and Black Thunder time to gather needed supplies. Together, they visited the trading post, where Sarah was dismayed by the inflated prices the shopkeeper tried to charge upon seeing her Blackfeet companion. This is theft, she declared loudly. These blankets were half this price 3 weeks ago. The shopkeeper sneered. Supply and demand, ma'am. Winter's coming. And you think you can cheat us because my husband is Blackfeet? She stood her ground, aware of Black Thunder's surprised expression. We'll take our business elsewhere. As they left empty-handed, Black Thunder spoke quietly. There is nowhere else. He knows this. Then we'll send word to Helena for supplies, Sarah replied. My uncle has connections there. Black Thunder studied her with newfound respect. You have a warrior's spirit, Sarah Palmer. Callaway, she corrected automatically, then paused. Though I suppose it is Palmer now, isn't it? Among my people you would be called wife of Black Thunder, he said, the hint of a smile touching his lips for the first time since she'd known him. That seems rather possessive, she replied. Is it? Perhaps. But I would be called husband of Sarah just the same. As they walked back to the clinic, Sarah noticed how people stepped aside, some with fear, others with contempt. Yet Black Thunder walked tall. How do you bear it? She asked. The way they look at you. I see only what matters. The rest is smoke. That evening, as they prepared to sleep in the same awkward arrangement, Black Thunder surprised her by asking about the book she carried. Shakespeare, Sarah explained. Poems and plays from a great English writer. Read some, he requested. Sarah opened to her favorite passage from The Tempest and began to read. When she finished, she found Black Thunder watching her intently. Your words paint pictures, he said, like our stories around the fire. Would you tell me one? A story of your people? In the quiet room, Black Thunder's deep voice recounted the creation tale of the Blackfeet, of Old Man and the animals, of how the world came to be. Sarah listened, captivated not just by the story, but by the animation in his usually stern face. But morning would bring an accusation that could destroy everything. When they prepared to leave, Lieutenant Davis approached with several soldiers. There's been an incident, he announced grimly. A settler's cabin was raided last night 10 miles east, family of 4 killed. Blackfeet tracks were found. Black Thunder's body tensed, his hand moving to his knife. That's impossible, Sarah interjected. The Blackfeet are camped west of here, and they wouldn't leave tracks so obviously. Nevertheless, Davis continued, the commander has ordered all Indians to be detained for questioning. Black Thunder's eyes narrowed dangerously. The boy needs medicine. We return to our people now. Soldiers moved forward, hands on their weapons. Sarah stepped between them and her husband, heart pounding. Lieutenant, my uncle will vouch for Black Thunder's whereabouts last night. This is absurd. Step aside, Mrs. Palmer, Davis ordered. This doesn't concern you. He is my husband, Sarah replied, surprising herself with the fierce certainty in her voice. It absolutely concerns me. The standoff lasted an excruciating hour before Dr. Palmer's testimony and the intervention of a sympathetic cavalry captain named Bennett allowed them to leave. As they rode away, Sarah could feel the tension radiating from Black Thunder. You should not have stood between me and their guns, he finally said when they were miles from the fort. It was dangerous. Would you have preferred I let them arrest you for something you didn't do? I have faced white men's accusations before. Their justice sees only what it wishes to see. By nightfall, they had covered half the distance to the Blackfeet camp, stopping to make a small fire in a sheltered ravine. As Sarah prepared broth for Running Fox, Black Thunder disappeared into the gathering darkness. He returned an hour later with a freshly killed rabbit. "Captain Bennett," he said unexpectedly as they ate. "He spoke of you." Sarah looked up, surprised. "What did he say?" "That you were Edward Palmer's niece. That you came west seeking purpose after your father died." Black Thunder studied her across the fire. "He said you were engaged to a doctor in Boston, but broke it when you discovered he experimented on poor patients without their knowledge." Sarah stared at him, shocked that Bennett knew this private history. "That's true. Thomas, my fiancé, believed the advancement of medicine justified any means. I couldn't accept that. You believe all people deserve the same care, even enemies?" "I don't consider your people enemies," Sarah replied. "Yet you feared me," he said matter-of-factly. "When we first met." Sarah couldn't deny it. "Yes, your reputation preceded you. As a savage who collects scalps." "Something like that," she admitted. "But I was wrong." Black Thunder added wood to the fire. "I have killed men in battle, but only warriors who chose to fight. Never women. Never children. Never the defenseless. This is the way of honor." That night, as Running Fox slept deeply, Sarah found herself huddled close to Black Thunder for warmth. Their blankets combined against the autumn chill. His nearness should have made her uncomfortable. Yet instead, she felt strangely protected. "The stars are different here," she murmured, gazing upward. "So much brighter than in Boston." "The same stars," Black Thunder corrected gently, "but seen through clearer eyes." He pointed upward, tracing patterns. "There is the buffalo, and there the 7 brothers who became the stars you call the Dipper." As he named the constellations in his people's tradition, Sarah felt something shift between them. A bridge forming across the vast divide of their different worlds. But what they found when they reached camp would shake that bridge to its foundations. They arrived the following afternoon to find the Blackfeet camp in turmoil. Soldiers had visited during their absence, searching teepees and frightening children while looking for raiders. Grey Wolf had maintained a fragile peace, but tensions were high. That evening, a council fire was lit. Sarah sat beside Morning Star as the men debated their response. Some younger warriors called for retaliation while Grey Wolf counseled patience. When Black Thunder finally spoke, the entire circle fell silent. "The Bluecoats seek reason for war," he said, his voice carrying clearly. "They create stories of raiders to justify taking more land. If we attack, we give them what they want." A young warrior jumped to his feet. "So we do nothing while they push us from our hunting grounds? While they kill our brothers?" "I did not say do nothing," Black Thunder replied calmly. "I say be smarter than they expect. The doctor's medicine helps our children. His niece, my wife, stood between me and soldiers' guns at the fort. Not all white people are enemies." Sarah felt eyes turn toward her, some curious, others skeptical. "Captain Bennett seeks truth about the murdered settlers," Black Thunder continued. "He believes Crow raiders, or perhaps white men disguised as Indians, are responsible. We should help him find proof." The council continued late into the night, eventually agreeing to Black Thunder's proposal. As the gathering dispersed, Sarah approached her husband. "Thank you for what you said about me." "I spoke only truth," he replied, his face softened by the dying firelight. "You have courage." Over the next weeks, as winter settled across the prairie, something unexpected began to happen. Sarah's role in the tribe evolved. What had begun as a reluctant arrangement transformed as she worked alongside the medicine woman, combining Western treatments with traditional knowledge. The children especially sought her out, fascinated by her stories and the small wooden toys her uncle sent from the fort. Black Thunder remained reserved, yet Sarah noticed subtle changes. He began taking her on rides to gather medicinal plants, teaching her to recognize landmarks and navigate the vast landscape. In the evenings, he carved a small flute, filling their teepee with hauntingly beautiful melodies. They still maintained separate sleeping areas, but the invisible barrier between them thinned. Sometimes their hands would touch as they worked together, lingering a moment longer than necessary. Sometimes she would catch him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Then came the night that changed everything between them. One bitter December night, as wind howled outside their teepee, Sarah awoke to find Black Thunder adding wood to the fire, his face troubled. "What's wrong?" she asked, sitting up. "Nothing," he replied automatically, then reconsidered. "Dreams. Old memories." Sarah wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, moving closer to the fire. "Tell me." He was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I dreamed of my first wife, Snow Lily. She died bringing our son into the world. The boy lived only 2 days." The raw pain in his voice moved her deeply. "I'm sorry. And your second wife?" "Dawnbird. The fever took her last winter." His hands worked methodically, arranging the burning logs. "Some say I am cursed." "That's superstition," Sarah said firmly. "Disease isn't a curse. It's something we can fight with knowledge." Black Thunder looked up, something vulnerable in his usually guarded eyes. "When Grey Wolf first spoke of this marriage, I refused. I did not wish to bring death to another woman. Yet here I am," Sarah said softly, "very much alive." "Yes," he agreed, his gaze holding hers. "Here you are." The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken feelings. But before anything could happen, a new crisis struck. The blizzard that hit 3 days later was the worst in living memory. Snow piled higher than the teepee entrances. Hunting became impossible. Within a week, food supplies dwindled dangerously. Black Thunder and 3 other warriors ventured out to hunt despite the treacherous conditions. When they hadn't returned by nightfall, Sarah paced anxiously, alternating between worry and anger at his recklessness. Morning Star kept her company. "My brother was not always so serious," she confided. "Before the deaths, before the soldiers pushed us from our best hunting grounds, he laughed often." "I find that hard to imagine," Sarah admitted. "I have seen him watching you. When you treat the children, when you learn our ways, his face changes." Before Sarah could respond, shouts outside announced the hunter's return. She rushed out to find Black Thunder being helped from his horse, blood freezing on his leggings where a bull elk had gored his thigh. Despite his protests, Sarah insisted on treating him immediately. As she cleaned and stitched the jagged wound, her hands steady despite her racing heart, Black Thunder watched her face intently. "You were worried," he observed. "Of course I was worried," she replied, focusing on her task. "You could have frozen to death out there. We brought meat. The people will eat." Sarah tied off the final stitch. "There are other hunters. You don't have to risk yourself every time. It is my responsibility, as chief's son, as your husband." "I never asked you to risk your life for meat," Sarah said, her emotions finally breaking through. "I would rather have you alive than a dozen elk." Black Thunder's hand covered hers, warm despite the bitter cold he'd endured. "You care what happens to me?" The question, so simply asked, made Sarah pause. When had this arranged marriage, this practical alliance, transformed into something that made her heart race when he entered their teepee? When had his rare smiles become something she worked to earn? "Yes," she admitted quietly. "I care very much." That night, as fire blazed warmly in their teepee, and snow continued to fall outside, the barrier between their sleeping areas disappeared forever. When Black Thunder hesitantly extended his hand across the space that had separated them for months, Sarah took it, moving into his embrace with a certainty that surprised them both. For the first time, they were truly husband and wife. Spring came early to the Montana Territory, bringing with it news that would reshape their entire world. Captain Bennett arrived at the Blackfeet camp with stunning revelations. The settler killings had been orchestrated by land speculators hoping to provoke a war that would clear the valuable territory of its indigenous inhabitants. 3 men had been arrested. The military commander had been replaced. More significantly, Bennett brought word that the government had agreed to expand the Blackfeet reservation boundaries to include their traditional hunting grounds in exchange for peaceful cooperation. "Your husband's strategy worked," Bennett told Sarah privately. "His willingness to work with us rather than fight proved crucial. Not many men, white or Indian, would have shown such restraint." As Bennett prepared to leave, he handed Sarah a packet of letters from her family in Boston. "Your mother writes that she wishes to visit this summer. I believe she's curious to meet her new son-in-law." Sarah laughed, imagining proper Boston society matron Eleanor Callaway confronted with the imposing Black Thunder. Yet somehow the image didn't seem as incongruous as it once would have. That evening, as they walked along the creek that bordered the camp, Sarah shared her mother's plans. "She will be welcome," Black Thunder said, surprising her. "Family is important." Sarah studied his profile, still struck sometimes by the transformation in him, or perhaps in her perception of him. The stern warrior remained, but she now saw also the thoughtful leader, the patient teacher, the tender husband. "I was thinking," she said carefully, "that perhaps we could build a proper cabin near the creek. Something combining both our traditions. The teepee is fine, but if my mother visits—" Black Thunder stopped, turning to face her fully. "You wish to stay, then? When the year of our agreement ends?" Sarah realized he had been anticipating her departure, expecting this arrangement to conclude once its purpose was fulfilled. The thought of leaving him, of returning to Boston's drawing rooms and social constraints, seemed impossible now. "I wish to stay," she confirmed, reaching for his hand. "Not because of any agreement, but because this is where I belong. With you." Black Thunder drew her close, his arms encircling her as naturally as if they'd been meant for this all along. "Then we will build a home," he said, his voice warm against her hair. "Between two worlds, belonging to both." As the sun set over the distant mountains, painting the prairie in gold and crimson, Sarah reflected on the strange journey that had brought her here. What had begun as sacrifice had transformed into the most profound love she had ever known. A love that bridged cultures, healed old wounds, and promised a future neither of them could have imagined alone. From the arranged marriage that seemed like a death sentence to a love that changed everything, Sarah and Black Thunder had found something rare and precious. They had found home in each other. If you enjoyed this story of courage, survival, and unexpected love that bridged two worlds, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what you thought of Sarah and Black Thunder's incredible journey. Your support means everything, and there are more amazing stories coming your way.